Hi, so I was going to make a different video for this week, but I wanted to address something because poetry is in the news weirdly, not for a great reason, and I wanted to take this opportunity to speak out about poetry. A certain pundit on network television, I won't dignify them by naming them, uh, in the last week called Amanda Gorman, who was the Youth Poet Laureate of America a number of years ago and was the inaugural poet for Biden's inauguration, called her a fake poet and said that her poem that she read was ridiculous. Um, and I just want to kind of remark on this. Usually, poets aren't called out on national TV by pundits or made fun of because mostly people don't pay attention to poetry. And I just wanted to talk for a minute about my favorite part of Amanda Gorman's inaugural poem, "The Hill We Climb," which she read in January of 2020 at the inauguration. Here's what I think is so great about this particular part of the poem. So I want to read this to you. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in the bridges we've made. This is the promise to glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare. I defy any reader of that poem, especially who hears it out loud, to say, oh, this is a fake poem. There's nothing poetic about it. I'm not even sure what it means to be a fake poet or a fake poem. I suppose that if you don't truly commit yourself to the art of poetry and only pretend to, that might make you a fake poet. Let's look at the qualities that are making this poem a very real poem and a very worthy poem, given the definition of poetry that we've been talking about. We have uh, we seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true is a great line that resolves itself into an iambic meter. Let the globe is a pattern, a metrical pattern that we call an anapest. If nothing else, say this is true is a series of what we call iambic feet. Da 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 da. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. This is a da 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 rhythm. It's a very conventional rhythm, especially in the history of British poetry. It's an anapest followed by four iambs. This is a rhythm that we can look back and see is existent in writers like Elizabeth Barrett Browning, William Wordsworth, John Milton, William Shakespeare, Anne Bradstreet, Geoffrey Chaucer, just to name a few. So the idea that this is a poem that's fake or laughable, I find almost a pitiable view, because this is a poem that knows the rhythms of the English language literary tradition, and is using it to great effect. Gorman says, let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, even as we hurt, we hoped, even as we tired, we tried. We move from a pretty conventional iambic structure down into a looser rhythmic structure, and yet that employs the rhetorical technique of anaphora. So even as we, even as we, even as we is a repeated series of phrases that builds a rhythm and an expectation that then in the fourth line after the that even as we pattern starts is resolved and released into a more into a different form. And so we have this building rhetorical repetition. This would be based on the principles of classical rhetoric, which go all the way back to Aristotle. In the Roman time, we get in Quintilian, and of course the founding fathers and abolitionist leaders like Frederick Douglass are employing these rhetorical classical techniques. Once again, I want to emphasize that this is a poem that is deeply indebted to the classical Roman, classical Greek, English poetic tradition, as well as the American rhetorical tradition, both our great founding fathers and our great anti-slavery abolitionist black leaders. Don't let anyone tell you that Amanda Gorman is a fake poet.